have to grow their people. We have tremendous human talent. How do we grow our people so that they can meet or exceed the customer's expectations? I think next, companies really need to take a look at their internal rules and policies and procedures and ask themselves, what are the policies that interfere with customer satisfaction? And then eliminate those policies and procedures, because it inhibits successful customer service and it diminishes quality. And the last point is, I think companies also need to look at their human talent and say, how can I reward and recognize you for doing the things that you do right? What is it that I can do to encourage that kind of behavior that's going to help us be more productive and be more successful and be more profitable?
I would tend to agree with that.
And finally, how to diagnose the client's expectations and how to know if the product has covered all the necessities. It has a cost of time and money, and the company has to consider this in its annual budget. If you assign special resources in order to satisfy the client, in order to know what their needs are, aren't you limiting their growth?
That goes back to that traditional thinking that good quality costs money. Well, we have learned in the last 10 or 15 years that by putting good quality programs in, actually you are saving the company's assets. The most expensive way of attracting customers is to go on out and get a brand new customer. If we can retain our original customers, then we can expand our sales, improve our market position.
We now start the first question and answer demonstration session. You may send your questions to the studio via fax number 619-594-8178, or you may call the studio directly, 619-265-1021. The first question comes from Mexico City, and somebody from the electrical division in Mexico City.
Estamos escuchando la pregunta. Vamos a ver, Ciudad de México, ¿tiene alguna
pregunta? Waiting for your question.
Bueno, ¿me escuchan?
Can you hear me?
Por favor, formule su pregunta.
Okay, nuestra pregunta es, cuando las empresas...
My question is, when the companies give incentives, if you achieve the goal, isn't there a possibility that the employees get accustomed to this, and every time they ask for more and more? How should you handle this? Thank you.
Those kind of issues naturally come up in the training program. That really what we try to emphasize in training programs is really we aren't so much concerned with increasing wages as we are increasing productivity. We're changing the responsibilities of the employees that they are truly stakeholders in the company. They have to become more business-oriented. We have had too many situations in our own country where labor contracts have been signed and really made us very unproductive. But this is part of the whole training process, that you are a stakeholder in the company, and therefore if we're going to compete in a global market, we have to compete on the basis of productivity improvements. And I think President Salinas talked the same way. He's talking about improvements in wages down in Mexico, but they have to be geared to productivity increases, which is the only way you can operate in a global economy.
Bueno, y tenemos ahora una llamada de Tuxtla Gutiérrez, de la Comisión Federal de Electricidad. Adelante.
From the Electrical
Adelante, Tuxtla
Committee.
Gutiérrez. Estamos
Go ahead.
escuchando su
We're
pregunta.
listening to your question. We're talking from the Technical Institute. Mr. Gomez's question. The question is, how can we motivate personnel in order to get into a total quality management?
Well, that's a loaded question. Every company needs to understand that their greatest asset and their greatest expense is human talent. And the challenge that you have in a total quality process is to create buy-in throughout the organization so that people feel a part of that process as opposed to resisting the process. The challenge that most companies have, whether you're in South America, Mexico, or the United States, is to create participation throughout the organization so that your people feel a part of the quality movement. If they don't, quality will never happen in your company.
Gracias. Tenemos otra pregunta.
Thank you. We have another question from the Lázaro Cárdenas Technical Institute. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Your question. Isn't there a risk with parallel objectives or parallel organizations when you talk about 2QM?
I have seen that kind of a problem develop in some companies, and I've also seen how it's been handled very successfully. Really, it all depends upon the organizational structure that you set up, like the steering committee. The steering committee, of course, consists to a large part of the senior executives of the company, and of course, one of the lead persons on the steering committee is the chief executive officer. What we want to do in TQM is we want to be operating in accord with the overall business strategy. There may be some things that the quality process and people may not be aware of regarding markets, companies, facilities, and so forth. But having the chief executive officer make sure that we're operating as a team working together. And that way you can prevent the TQM process from becoming an entity unto itself. It is integrated with the total company strategy.
Thank you. We have another question from a participant. It comes from Paraguay, Asunción, the university, the Catholic University. Go ahead. Hello. Hello.
Por favor, lo escuchamos. Adelante.
Go ahead.
Sí.
Le saluda Jorge Riveros. Sí, la siguiente pregunta. ¿Cuáles son las experiencias
What's your experience
en implantación
while implementing
de administración por calidad total
TQM
en empresas de servicios públicos,
in public service
de
companies,
países en vías de desarrollo,
in countries which are developing countries, where the organizations are criticized and with respect to quality and service and the cost of these? Thank you very much.
This is a problem that exists in every country at every level of government. We have this issue in the United States, and I'll speak from a perspective of the United States. Right now, Vice President Al Gore, Vice President of the United States, is leading an effort to reinvent government. And part of the Vice President's plan to reinvent government is to encourage the bureaucracy to streamline its processes so that taxpayers or the citizens can receive those services more efficiently, more quickly. The problem that you have, regardless of what country you're calling from, is that governments operate under different rules. We have unions, we have laws that government employees must follow. So it complicates the process, and maybe George could address some of that.
Yes. When one stops to think about the sizing of the problem, and then also the opportunities are presented, it's staggering. Because really when you talk about public service employees in this country, they probably represent 30 to 40% of all the employees in the country. When you consider educational people, when you consider defense people, when you consider law enforcement, and so forth. Now, there is, as Tom pointed out, a real desire, because of lack of government dollars coming from taxpayers, that we have to increase our productivity in the government sector. For example, I'm working up at a Marine base. It's a depot. Now, we repair our tanks and so forth up there. But it used to be before that they were just given so many dollars to go ahead and repair a tank. Now they go ahead and they have to compete. So really the government is telling them that you have to be driven by market statistics. And of course this for government employees is kind of a new thing. But really what we're saying is that the problems we have in trying to reduce government, can really be very effective in helping us to improve productivity also.
Muchas gracias, señores.
Thank you. The next correspondent is calling from La Paz, South America.
¿Lo escuchamos?
We're listening.
Bueno.
Sí, a sus órdenes, siga.
Go ahead.
La pregunta es parecida a la anterior, pero
This is a similar question to the one we just had. This is only with relation to the universities. We're talking about research. Is there an experience of TQM within the universities, and if so, what has been the result?
Yes, there has been some experiences. Donna Shala, who happens to be one of our secretaries in the federal government, came as head of the University of Wisconsin. There could be other universities cited that have been working on TQM. It's a difficult area to work in, but every university is beginning to realize that really we are not going to continue to feed monies to universities unless we can get more productivity out of the university. I heard, for example, Governor Pete Wilson say less than about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we have to guarantee our students in this country can get through the university in 4 years. We cannot continue to stretch this out and hold them back from making a contribution to our society. Yes, there is a lot of interest. It's a separate field unto itself, because really what we're talking about is constituencies, deanships, and so forth in a university that have to be brought together for the university total good.
Thank you. The next question comes from Mexico City, the Federal Commission Electrical. This is the question. This is the training department. What do you recommend in TQM with respect to a big company? If somebody in a 4th level works with quality management, but not everybody in the company works with total quality management.
Well, in our book, Customer-Focused Quality, we address that specific problem. The challenge that you have in an organization, whether it's government or a corporation, is that you must have a commitment to total quality from a senior level of the organization. Part of getting that commitment must come from a clarity of vision from your chief executive officer in the company, or it has to come from a groundswell within the level 4 that you're at, so that most of the employees believe in the process and they will become the champions or the advocates of that quality process. It either has to be driven from the top down, or it has to have enough momentum from the employee ranks so that quality has a chance to survive in the company.
The next question comes from Guadalajara, the University of Guadalajara. We're listening. Thank you. How can you implement a total quality management process in a service-oriented company which is not lucrative and that functions with cautious clients?
Well, hopefully they all function with cautious clients. But I'm not sure that it's any different in the service sector than it is in the manufacturing sector. And I'd like George to address the manufacturing side in just a moment. I think the process for quality is the same, whether you're coming from a service company or from a manufacturing company. I think one of the keys to your particular question is go back to your cautious clients, your customers, and ask them, how are you doing by way of the services you provide? What is it that your company can do to better serve your customers' needs, their needs? And I think if you start at that point, you will begin to find some of the answers to the quality process, as well as you will get the customers to buy into the quality process that you're trying to design in your company.
If
George,
I could
you might have something to
just
add.
comment a couple of things. We are all pragmatic businessmen. We are interested in our companies getting ahead, producing a profit, and so forth. In a service company, really what you're trying to do is you want to retain all of your customers. How many of us really keep statistics of the turnover in our customers? They drop out, we never know why they drop out, you know. And it costs ever so much more to add a new customer than to retain an old one. And that's why, regardless, you know, the service offers a very large opportunity to make some very significant savings, you know, and to really improve the image of your company, why your customers prefer to do business for you. So really it's an untapped thing, but it takes some measurements. We have to find out, as Tom was pointing out, we have to take surveys.
Thank you. We have a greeting from somebody in Ecuador who's they're seeing the teleconference, and they have a question for you. Go ahead, Ecuador.
Okay. Mi nombre es algo Cagliani. Necesito hacer una pregunta.
My name is Mr. Cagliani. I'd like to ask you, in your experience, how do you manage the resistance from high executive to TQM?
Well, this is an issue that we'll talk about a little later in terms of reinventing or re-engineering the company. If you have strong resistance from the senior level of your company, it's going to be very difficult to succeed with the total quality management process. I think you have to find out from that senior manager what is his or her hot button issue, that issue that's going to get them to support quality. It may be a financial statement, it may be increased productivity, it may in fact be fewer employees to do the job, but there is some issue that senior executive is concerned about, and it's imperative that you find out what is going to get that senior executive on board. Otherwise, the effort will never succeed to the level that you would like it to succeed. George?
Yeah. I would suggest that when you have problems with your CEO, that you begin to think like a CEO, as Tom was pointing out. Really take a look at what is driving him, what are his concerns, and so forth. As Deming has pointed out, it's very difficult to change a company from the inside. And that's why Deming's, one of his premises is that in order to go into the TQM process, you may well need outside help. People get easily intimidated inside companies, but by having outside help, diplomatic outside help, you can start leading some opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. I have another question from Paraguay. What are the experiences with TQM from developing countries? But we're going to leave this question until later, and we're going to continue now with our program. Mr. Hinton will now commence his presentation, but we can receive more questions during our next session.
It's a pleasure to be with you today to discuss quality, and specifically how you can mobilize the human potential in your company to increase your customer satisfaction levels and profitability. Since 1985, when I first began my work in the areas of customer satisfaction and total quality, I have believed in two overriding principles. First, I believe that most employees are good people, and they take pride in doing a good job. When management rewards, recognizes, and trains its employees, their pride, performance, and productivity will increase. Secondly, the most important reason for implementing a quality process in your company is that you cannot acquire and maintain customers unless you practice total quality. Let's begin to examine the human side of quality with a simple exercise. I have here a compass, and it is pointing to true north. Let me ask you a question. Where is true north? Please raise your right hand and, using your index finger, point in the direction of true north. Now, I realize you're without a compass, but try to use your best judgment and point to wherever you think true north is. If you look around the meeting room, you will notice that there are many different directions we are pointing in. But according to my compass, the exact direction of true north is here. I introduced this exercise because locating true north is much like the challenges we face in defining quality in our companies. If your organization is similar to those we work with around the world, I suspect everybody in your company has a different interpretation of what quality is. And not only do your employees have a different interpretation of what quality is, but so do your managers, and so do your customers. Furthermore, everybody has a different idea of how to achieve it, just like everybody attending this program has a different notion as to the exact location of true north. Is it any wonder why so many executives and managers are struggling to define quality and create a total quality process that will work for their company? Unfortunately, too many organizations embark on a poorly chartered quality journey without first analyzing the human side of quality. Managers fail to ask their employees, suppliers, or customers how they would structure a quality process that works. They never ask themselves, how will this new quality process affect our people? How will it affect our suppliers? How will it affect our customers? Will it make us a more productive and a more profitable company? Just like discovering the exact location of true north, do not be surprised if your employees are not moving in the same direction when it comes to implementing your quality process. In our own frantic pursuit to keep pace with the demands of a changing global economy, we have all but forgotten that quality, first and foremost, isn't really driven by statistical processes, but rather it's driven by people who perform tasks and in so doing ensure positive results for our customers and guarantee that the statistical processes are accurate the first time and every time. So, what does it take to achieve meaningful quality results? Today, I would like to share with you a 5-step process my consulting firm, the Customer Relations Institute, recommends to its clients for creating a successful customer-focused quality process. Secondly, I want to give you 3 rules for creating a unified direction for your quality process. For the past 7 years, I have worked with companies that vary in terms of their number of employees, products, service, revenues, management styles, and industries. My mission has always been the same: to help them implement a successful quality process or customer satisfaction program that results in more customers and higher profits. Although each of these companies is unique, the 5 steps for creating a successful customer-focused quality process never changes. They are universal in their application. The 5 steps are: number 1, listen to your customers, employees, and suppliers by conducting ongoing assessments and feedback forums. 2, establish quality standards that meet or exceed your customers' expectations. 3, educate and train your people in the ways of quality. 4, measure results and give frequent positive feedback to your employees and suppliers regarding your quality and customer satisfaction efforts. And number 5, reward and recognize your people for their efforts and accomplishments. In our new book, Customer-Focused Quality, What to Do on Monday Morning, my co-author, Winnie Schaefer of Motorola, and I, we write extensively about these 5 steps. And we also provide numerous examples of companies that are achieving outstanding results with this 5-step process. It isn't enough to simply take these 5 steps and expect your people to work miracles. You also need to follow 3 rules to help you create a unified direction for total quality. These 3 rules will make your quality journey an easier road to travel, one that is not fraught with curves and dangerous hazards along the way. But before I offer you my 3 rules, let me first give you my definition of quality. It is a very simple definition, and its simplicity drives the academicians crazy. I define quality as follows. Quality is the ability to meet or exceed your customers' expectations on a consistent basis. I believe this definition says it all, and it says it in only a few words. The key word in this definition is consistent. I believe consistency is what separates the outstanding companies from their competition. In the United States, consistency of performance is what ultimately earns a company the coveted Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. In Japan, the Deming Prize is premised on consistency and one's ability to achieve statistical perfection in the manufacturing process. Many other countries, including Mexico, have their own national quality awards. The winners of these various national awards must also demonstrate consistency in their performance. To me, this is the one area where companies have the most difficult challenge, getting their people to perform on a consistent basis. Because human beings are not like robots. We cannot program our employees to come to work motivated and perform perfectly. And this leads us to rule number 1. Rule number 1, your management must be committed to achieving the highest level of quality. Unless your executives live and breathe quality, no one in your company will embrace the principles of quality. Leaders must be role models. They cannot fake their way through the quality process. Whenever the ego gets in the way, quality will take a back seat, and you can be sure the commitment to quality among your rank and file employees is weak. True leaders understand that quality applies to all aspects of their professional and their personal life. If you want an example of how ego nearly destroyed